part of the way we approach creating tomorrow, which we don't create, but is created. So it's a bit of a diversification from this imperative of knowing the present better, so I have better data, so I can predict the future better. That's not quite it. It might be true.
Can I just ask something to that what you said? Oh, okay. As I understood what you just explained is like live your life now and see what the future brings. Something like that. But an example, I'm not continuing my studies, but in future I notice, oh, if I would have did my PhD, I could have a better job. So it's always also a strategic planning on the personal level. How can I deal with this? Maybe it's again the question of uncertainty and I need to predict or whatever, but how can I deal with such a situation?
There's a lot of issues there, but I mean part of it's the attitude. How many of you have seen, it's worth taking a look at. Steve Jobs gave a graduation speech at Stanford University in 2009, maybe. It's Stanford, Steve Jobs. You'll get his commencement speech at Stanford, in which he explains why dropping out, doing things he didn't have any idea what they'd be good for, were the most important things he did. Losing his job was the crucial moment. So he explains three things that were, in some senses, unintended and bad, that were critical for what he was able to do. So I'm not saying that we don't have to prepare. I'm very glad that lunch is waiting for us. Okay? So, I mean, it's a question of degree, and it's a question of diversification. But it's also a question of expectation, which is why I stopped on this point, which is that if the only reason I'm supposed to understand the present better is so I can do better forecasting, you have to remember where I come from as an economist doing models, then I think I've missed part of the point. Because I'm just reintegrating data into the existing way of thinking about the future. And all I'm saying is that it's better to know more about the present, absolutely. The future is crucial for understanding the present, but also the way I use the future needs to be diversified. So it's both things.
Yeah. I agree with you. I didn't mean when I said we are in the present making our choice of being better informed about the future. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have a very fixed imagination of the future, that we then, if it doesn't happen, then we are disappointed. And I like your choice of the word impact, because there is no causal relationship. Because yes, we can contribute to the future, but we do not control it. And this is very important culturally, especially in the Middle East, for future literacy, because people can think, no, we don't want to play God. If you think that you really want to perfect knowledge about the future, then you're playing God. You know everything. So this is not possible. I mean, this is beyond human capacity. So I agree with you that just to say, yes, we're exploring. So now, back to the main question I wanted to ask.
Kais and I had that conversation, exactly that conversation,
yes.
6 or 7 years ago.
Yes.
About the Middle East.
My question is about the methodology. Okay, so we're convinced now about the purpose of future literacy. How to do it? You said that there are multiple tools. Okay, it's not about the tools, it's about the process. So if future usage is something that is at the far end of a process, so the process, what I get out of what we were trying to do, we talked about future visioning, future thinking, sense making, future analysis, and then maybe future planning, I don't know. So at the end of the day, what would be the main milestones of a process that can become the...
Thankfully, we're going to have lunch, and we're going to be able to talk about next thing. So I've got... I mean, 1, 2.
No, c'était là.
C'est vrai. You're third. So, right now.
Bien, en fait, je crois qu'à ce niveau, chaque membre peut répondre à la question est-ce qu'il adhère à la société préconisée. Je peux répondre oui, parce que je vois dans les contenus la pensée d'Edgar Morin. Je vois aussi Michael Moore dans ça. Et je vois Einstein dans ça. Einstein a parlé du pouvoir que nous avons à partir de l'imagination. mais aussi Maître Moore a dit tout ce que nous faisons d'UNIDIUM a préparé un monde avec des diplômes de 7 ans, alors que le monde change radicalement tous les 18 mois. Et il a montré comment notre capacité à connaître évolue en créant des changements de paradigme extraordinaires. Et Edgar Morin nous a appris, pour nous réconcilier entre nous, de prendre les choses dans la complexité. Donc finalement, je vais rentrer ici en faisant une distinction entre deux mots que j'interchangeais et que je ne vais plus interchanger. Pour moi, le futur n'est pas l'avenir. C'est ça.
Merci beaucoup.
Very good. I'm not sure of the way I want to put my question or comment, but it seems that we use the resources in our mental base in combination with imagination to anticipate the future. We came up with these two ideas about the sun capsule because we are aware of climate change, and we know that Africa is rich in sun, and floods might cover Europe. This is the mental database we have. Now my question is there any limit on the imagination side? How far can you, based on the mental database you have, go to anticipate future outcome? Is there a limit? Should be there a limit? How far can you go?
It's a very good question because we're a species that I think is very fortunate, and I say this very fortunate to be excessive.
Yes.
And because our excesses create a lot of new things, including a lot of suffering, but also some exciting things. And I would say my point is this. You can imagine the species quite easily going to the planets, right? We have many movies that show us out in the stars and all the rest. So, and we can also become machines. We have many imagination, transhuman, etc., etc. As I was saying yesterday, you know, Star Wars, saying this Abbas, you know, Star Wars is very creative about the costumes, but not so creative about the Roman Senate. You know, they're not imaginative when it comes to governments. They're imaginative when it comes to costumes. I think the answer to your question, if I might, is that it doesn't matter, because the point is not the excess of our imagination. The point is, what do we do with it? If we use it as a fantasy, which is what the transhumanists do, to say, we're going to become transhuman, and our minds will move into machines, or we will become immortal through genetic engineering or something. If that's their fantasy, I mean, that's utopian thinking in the bad sense of utopian. It's some sort of ideal that you think will be your ideal. The point about futures literacy is that, you know, those ideas, that's a way of making you look at genetic engineering that's about immortality. It's the way you think about the future that influences what you think and what you see and what you do in the present. And I'm much more interested not in the future, excessive or not excessive. I'm interested in the way in which we use the future in the present to understand the present and then to act. To act by planning, to act by creating a legacy, which we don't know what the implications will be. But if I act morally today, and I don't say I'll hold off till tomorrow to act morally. If I act morally today, I lead my example. That's all.
Which, to deal with the reality we live with, doesn't incorporate something called the future, something that's going to come. And so they have this expression in their language called the long now, or the continuous present, in the sense that that's the way they see it. So to me, what we've done here is really interesting in the sense that you're exposing us to another sense of how do we understand that reality and how do we use a language by which we can use to deal with our conditions of understanding of that environment. and you stated very well that to be able